20 years ago, my good friend Douglas Adams spent a year tracking down endangered animals, together with the zoologist Mark Carwardine. Now it's my turn. Mark and I are heading off to find out exactly what happened to those species that he had seen dangling on the edge of extinction 2 decades ago. It promises to be exhausting, exhilarating, exasperating. But I wouldn't miss it for the world.
You seem to have brought me to some kind of paradise, Mark. This is
Isn't
fantastic.
it
Look at
wonderful?
this clear water and this beautiful white sand. What are we after?
Well, I thought you wouldn't complain. I mean, you know our main objective is to get to Komodo
Yeah.
and look for the Komodo dragon, which is one of the most impressive animals on the planet, the biggest lizard in the world, very dangerous and endangered. So that's what we're aiming for. But rather than go straight there, which I thought would be too easy, thought we'd go and explore a bit of the Malay archipelago and look at some of the other reptiles and the other wildlife along the way. And we're actually heading for Snake Island.
Snake Island. Right. Welcome to Snake Island, Mr. Bond. Yeah, that's a
Correct.
worrying title. And what sort of snakes do we
Well,
find
this
there?
is home to an animal called the yellow-lipped sea crate, which is a kind of sea snake, and it spends half its life in the water and half its life on shore. It actually comes out onto the shore to rest and to lay eggs.
Are they venomous?
Yeah, I thought you'd ask that. It's venomous. It's actually the second most venomous snake in the world. It's 10 times more venomous than a rattlesnake, more venomous than a king cobra.
I've got open-toed sandals on.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, you should have worn.
Great.
No, I'm kidding. They're fine.
The sea kraits are just one of the many creatures that thrive in the marginal world that exists between sea and land, which is so widespread throughout the islands that make up Malaysia and Indonesia.
Oh, did you see?
God, there's a little lizard.
Yeah,
A big
quite
lizard.
a big lizard.
What kind?
That was a water monitor.
A water monitor. It sounds like a job at school.
It does
Today
actually.
you'll be water monitor.
That was quite big.
It's a slightly weaker version of milk monitor.
Oh, careful, careful.
Oh my God! Oh my!
Wow,
That's a sea snake.
look at that. That's a good size one, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, you're not going to handle it. Oh my God, you are.
Catch it there.
Careful. Oh my goodness. Martin, you are very brave. Mark told me this is possibly the second most venomous snake in the world.
Yep.
God, look at that. Gorgeous markings.
Lovely. I was just going to say that.
Because it's also called the banded sea crate. You can see why,
Yeah,
all those
yeah.
dark bands across the body. Lovely.
Speckled band.
What's amazing about it is it spends most of its time out at sea, doesn't it? Out in the ocean. It can dive and hold its
Yeah.
breath for up to 2 hours, holding
Yes.
its breath.
Good Lord.
They'll come on land for mating also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And lays their eggs.
Is this a female, this one?
Yeah, normally the female is bigger than the male.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna release
So,
it,
yeah,
yeah?
we should release it, shouldn't we? Where are we going to do that?
I'm just gonna release it here.
Back to the same spot we found it. This is a big one, isn't it?
Beauty.
It's a good 4 feet.
I didn't think snakes had feet. Nothing. I didn't speak.
Je t'espère.
On our journey through the archipelago, we'll be discovering more fascinating species who've adapted to this marine and terrestrial existence, but whose habitat is under increasing threat from human activity. From Snake Island off the coast of Sabah in northeast Borneo, we'll be traveling southeast to the islands around Flores in Indonesia, where that mighty, ugly, salivating giant lizard known as the Komodo dragon awaits our arrival with its foul and stinky breath. After after the fleeting glimpse of the water monitor, Mark is keen to show me more of these reptiles who so closely resemble the Komodos. They're much smaller than the dragons, and unlike the Komodos, extremely successful, having colonized practically every island of the archipelago.
Got to take pictures of it. Extraordinary. They're obviously flesh-eating. They seem to be tearing at something.
They eat absolutely anything, from small insects to small deer. They'll eat one another, they eat human feces, they eat dead bodies, they eat absolutely anything. They're amazing animals. I mean, look at that tongue smelling.
Is that what it does? It's a blue tongue.
Just like a snake, yeah.
I have to say, this is exactly how I was picturing a Komodo dragon to look. But
Well, yeah, these are hard to believe, but these are tiddlers compared with the dragons I'm hoping we're going to see.
Hello.
Smaller guys have to watch out because they'll get eaten by some of the bigger adults.
Good gracious. Are they aggressive?
No, they'll be fine. They're being hunted. I mean, big numbers, hundreds of thousands of them are killed for their skin. And the skin is imported to Europe and Japan and the States to make handbags. So many of them are being killed. They're obviously at risk. It's very humid.
Now that is something bubbling.
Wow, that looks fantastic.
The whole of this region is on a major fault line and has the most active volcanoes anywhere in the world. Eruptions are frequent, albeit rarely as violent as the infamous Krakatoa. But even on this small island, there are some ominous evidences of all that subterranean activity.
I'm going to take off my clothes.
You devil.
I'm going to go
I'm going to take
butt
mine off
naked.
as well.
But
Are
with
you?
trunks.
Whoa! Oh my God, it's weird. Look at that.
Oh, it is warm.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You actually can't get down.
Oh, you can feel it sort of pulling all around you. Oh, that's so amazing.
Oh, it's great.
You also feel slightly like one of those Pompeii figures caught in the, in an attitude of, here comes a volcano.
Actually, it's like being weightless.
It's real.
Isn't it like being an astronaut?
So strange.
Can you swim?
No, if I do a one-legged side, that's not common.
For the next time.
Part of the entire. Oh, there. Oh, I feel very slippery. My goodness, they pull their trunks down. This weight of mud.
Muddy but oh so thoroughly cleansed after our ad hoc spa treatment, we head to the beach. But at the liminal zone between the sea and land, we find a curious species which has cunningly adapted to this habitat.
Look, more mud. With little creatures on
Hey,
it.
look at these. These are mud skippers. They're fish, can you believe?
What?
That actually come out of the water, and they've got fins like other fish, but they use their tails. They curl their tails around and use them like springs, and then leap and skip across
why?
the mud.
Is it food up here, or mating, or what do they do?
Oh, they come out of they spend most of their time out of the water, actually. They breed in the water. They have little tunnels that they make out of mud that are underwater. And they do all their sort of social activities on the mud like this. So in the breeding season, the males will suddenly leap up in the air and do backflips and try and impress the females. And if the female likes the look of the male, he'll then get her into his little tunnel, and she'll lay eggs, and he'll, fertilise the eggs.
So would it be fanciful to regard these as a sort of missing link? Is this how the first land animals moved from the sea to the land and became reptiles?
Well, it's interesting to look at them to learn a bit about how it might have happened. They're not actually related directly any more than any other fish to the original animals that came out. I mean, that happened, 365 million years ago when fish started walking on land, and these are doing the same thing.
Right.
So they're interesting from that point of view. Look at that one. Did you see that one just leap?
Fantastic.
We should get in the water and wash off.
I think, frankly, let's see. Thalassa.
It's hard to exaggerate the devastation that man has wrought on these seemingly pristine beaches and the wildlife that depend on them. One particular family of reptiles has suffered more than most. the sea turtles. For millions of years, all over Southeast Asia, vast numbers of turtles came ashore on beaches like these to lay their eggs. But no more. Most of the beaches are now empty. However, a few hundred miles to the east on Pulau Selingan, evidence of the turtles' nests pockmarked the beach. Remarkably, 20 years after being born here, the female turtles returned to exactly the same beach to lay their eggs.
So the eggs are down there somewhere, and they're probably a good, half a metre to 80 centimetres underneath your feet.
Dr. Nick Pilcher has spent his career studying the turtles around these shores and has been actively involved alongside Sabah National Parks with a major conservation program here. Egg poaching, hunting for their meat and shells, and drowning in fishing nets has led to a dramatic collapse in their numbers in spite of their protected status. To increase the remaining hatchling survival rate, which at best is less than 1% in the wild, Nick and the park rangers patrol the beaches and collect the eggs to put into a hatchery. Every night in the nesting season, up to a score of turtles will come ashore here to lay between 70 and 120 eggs each.
Oh, look, you can see them they just come one after the other.
They look like table tennis balls, don't they?
Oh, look, there they are, yes.
Actually, the ranger has to get the rest of the eggs out of this nest. So where is it? There he comes.
Goodness me.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
It's another example of how the act of conservation is almost exactly the same as the act of poaching.
Isn't it? Yeah.
What we're doing here for good used to be done by people to take the eggs to steal them for food.
Yes.
Absolutely. Do you want to try and reach in and grab some?
So what do I do? Just
right,
lean
just put
in?
one hand down behind her flipper there. Now you can reach in. Try not to touch her tail.
Got one.
Okay. You're going to try and grab them all out before she finishes laying.
There's another one there, it's hard.
Can I feel it?
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, it's warm and heavy.
Yeah, that's it. But what's interesting is that you can make a little dimple in it. Notice that? It's a little bit flexible.
Oh, yes.
Right? And that gives it a little bit of play when it falls into the nest.
And there it is. I can't see anything through the light. I can't see a shape.
They don't get any fresher than these. How many was that?
95 total.
That's a good number.
No, she's starting to cover it up.
Right. Now, notice
She thinks the eggs
she
are still
thinks
there.
the eggs are still there.
Yeah.
So she's going to cover this up just like it was any other nest. She's being extremely careful about how she puts her weight down.
All the eggs are being kept in a sort of inner dome, as it were, and then the looser sand will get...
Exactly.
It is more sophisticated than just filling the hole
It
with
is,
sand.
isn't it? She's building a whole shape around it.
The other thing that's interesting to see is she's using her front flippers throwing sand
To backfill.
backwards.
Wow.
Oh,
You
getting
pick up
showered
that
in
and
sand straight in your face.
Yes, it was. Extraordinary. There's a lot of power in those flippers.
Yeah. I'm gradually disappearing.
There you go. Look at you.
So when she starts heading towards the sea, is she going towards the sound of the sea or the lights?
She's actually going to follow the slope of the beach, possibly somewhat the sound of the waves.
She's going really quickly now.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at the speed
she can
of her.
smell it.
She's so happy to be back. Well done, Mother.
Good job done.
Well done. Some of the great themes in nature, the power of maternity and the power of instinct and the fitness for purpose, all come together in the turtle, almost like no other animal.
I mean, it's that fitness of purpose. Hundreds of millions of years.
Oh, there's still lots of mystery surrounding sea turtles, still lots of unanswered questions.
Absolutely. Look, we know what happens to them when they go into the sea. We understand a lot about this magnetic orientation, but how do they make it back? Yeah. And then you stop and think about that and you go, well, who told them they should come back here? Yeah, and while it's natural and there's a homing instinct, how is that homing instinct derived? How do they even do it?
Fantastic.
Oh,
that was one of the great evenings of my life.
I get to do this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
These eggs
The hatchery is half in shade, half in sun, as the slight temperature difference determines the sex of the animal. 2 degrees is all it takes to change a male to a female. If only our lives were that easy.
That's right. Actually, if the nest is quite warm, you'll get a greater number of females.
So have you got one that's due?
Well, if we look, we just wander up and down here and just see what there is, but there could be some.
This one looks. So this one, they've
That one
already
looks
come
like
out.
it came out.
Yeah.
Oh, look, here you go. There you go.
How do they,
Look at this. Look at
do
this.
they
Here you
climb
go.
up? Oh,
No,
We've
here.
got one that's just. They're all
Yeah, this,
hatching.
they're just about to come out.
Oh my
Here you go.
goodness!
Look at this.
Can I hold them?
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's the most fantastic animal, isn't it?
Look at this.
Oh, it's literally just been
Yeah.
born. Effectively,
Yeah.
it's first sight of the world,
Yeah.
isn't it?
they're perfect.
One of the things you'll find with these animals, when they're walking down the beach, and they can feel something underneath them, then they've got an alternating gait, so they one
Just
flipper,
on
then
land, just
on
walking
land.
along the sand.
But the minute they go weightless, so the minute they're in the water, they'll start to swim.
Oh wow,
they
that's
just-
fantastic.
Right? So it's swimming along. It's as if he was in the water. And notice also that the head comes up for a breath.
Oh,
just
it's all
like it
automatic.
would. Look at that. See, the head's coming up for a breath as if it was in the water.
Oh, look, there are more down there.
Right.
Oh, they're all
there's-
coming out.
Yeah,
They're
they're
getting
all,
ready.
all
Oh
coming
my
out.
goodness.
Once
This
some
one
of
back.
them start to move, that's the message
The
to the ones
signal.
underneath. Come on, guys, let's come out and go and see the beach.
Let's put this one back with this
A swarm of them. Does it say how many eggs
Well,
there were in that
there
trap?
were 81 eggs. That's very healthy, extremely healthy. Let's get these guys out to the ocean rather than keep them waiting around.
Yes, please.
This is excellent.
Yeah.
Evening time when hatchlings would typically be coming out.
So they'd come out just before the sun drops down, would they?
Yep. I think this is a good enough spot to let them go. The idea is in nature they would actually come out and run down the beach, and as they're running down the beach, they're picking up on magnetic fields.
Right, so they need a bit of a run-in just to
Exactly.
orient themselves.
Get their
And
bearings.
Exactly
and so on,
right.
yeah.
And then once they go through here, then they'll have a much better idea of where they're headed. So
Oh, this is
I'd
gonna be
rather release
amazing.
them up here, and we can just gently release this.
How extraordinary!
Look at that.
oh my goodness, I can take
And notice one thing, that they're headed straight towards the brightest spot.
They are, aren't they? Straight
Where
for the sun.
Straight where the sun.
That is the most incredible sight.
Fantastic. Look at them. Look at him. They're desperate.
There's no hanging around. They're not nervous about it. They're straight in the sea, aren't they?
Notice as soon as they float,
They're
they
doing that movement.
change their
Yeah. Head up,
swimming
just
pattern.
like the clockwork toy. Hey, look, there's one last one up here. Look, Stephen.
Oh, yes. Come on.
Come on, you.
Oh, no. The crab grabbed it as it went over the hole. Rescue it. I know you're not supposed to intervene, but hey.
Nearly there.
That's it. Go for it. Good luck.
Yeah, made for the water.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I've never seen anything quite so magical in all my life.
I know that's one of the best wildlife things I've seen.
20, 25 years from now, hopefully she'll be back laying eggs if she's a girl.
That was fantastic.
Great sight.
200 miles to the south, on the border with Indonesia and the Philippines, we're to get a chance to see the adult turtles in their natural habitat.
Okay, see you at there.
Mark tells me these are some of the best coral reefs anywhere in the world, but their health is as much at risk as the turtles. Dynamite and cyanide fishing, the pet trade, and global warming are such serious threats to the reefs and all that are dependent on them, it's feared they may be extinct within 50 years. But it's hard to imagine that now as I gaze in wonder at the grace and beauty of the turtles in their weightless world.
That was amazing.
Extraordinary. Never seen anything like it in all my life. Those are 2 turtles I saw at least.
Yeah,
So
well, 2
graceful
together, weren't
and
they?
beautiful.
That was lovely.
Easy strokes with those amazing flippers.
And watching them go off over the abyss, they go over the edge of the reef out into the open ocean.
We're staying on the island of Marble, which is home to many different nationalities. There are the Bugis, the sea gypsies that roam these waters, Malays, Filipinos, Indonesians from various ethnic groups, and all of them struggling to make a living on this crowded coral island.
Hello.
Sprite? Sprite. Dua. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
There you go.
For these islanders, shark fishing is a major resource, but one which itself is threatened with extinction.
Yeah, I don't know what species of shark it's in. It's a good sized one. Look at all the rows of teeth.
Oh my goodness. They're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can't even count. They go right down into the.
There's at least 8. It's a conveyor belt. So these front teeth are in use, and as they break off, which they do often, literally the next one just pops up like that, and then the next that works, and then there's another one ready to go, and there are others developing further back. So they never run out of teeth.
Extraordinary. Presumably it was killed for shark's fin soup. Is that one of the big problems?
That's the big threat. Sharks the world over are being killed by the million. I mean, they reckon 150 million sharks are killed every year, just for shark fin soup, and things like this are a byproduct. Most of them just get caught and the fins get cut off and they get thrown overboard, often alive. So most of the shark is wasted. And in these cases, they're just taking the jaws, which they sell to tourists. And there's so many of them.
There are other endangered species nearby. In amongst the sea gypsy villages that flourish in these margins of sea and land trots one of the most endearing animals of all.
Ouch. Good. That's the first stage, complete. Up to the knees. The reason I'm wearing these today, which I didn't yesterday, is because I've got really bad, you can probably see it quite red here, really bad sunburn from the snorkeling. Just from lying, it's weird. I should.
Stephen, are you coming?
Yes, sorry. Just chatting to the ladies and gentlemen. Ow. Oh dear. Hello.
It'll be dark soon.
Oi. Less of it. Ouch. Oh, I see. Oh dear. Excuse me. Ow. Oh. Ow.
Oh, for goodness sake, this is impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Ow. Have mercy on my poor flesh.
So if it starts to hurt, then
Oh,
it's fine.
yeah. But that's usually what I mean by ow.
Lovely. That's really good. We're lucky to see one because they're so well camouflaged, aren't they?
They really are. It's fascinating when they stretch themselves out. They become almost like a caterpillar.
They do. I always think they look like bits of other animals. You know, they've got a monkey's tail, that prehensile tail that wraps around the
grasps the end of the blade.
seagrass, and then they've got a horse's head, obviously.
Yeah.
And chameleon eyes, because the eyes can look in different directions. And then the most amazing thing is they've got like a kangaroo pouch. The males have what's called a brood pouch, and they're the ones that get pregnant. It's very unusual. No. And the male gives birth to the young, and they
to live young.
Yeah, it's extremely unusual way of reproducing.
So are seahorses in danger?
Yeah, of course. There's all sorts of threats. The main threat is traditional medicine in China, and they get dried and ground up and used as everything for medicine, from asthma to an aphrodisiac. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. These little spratty things.
In the markets of the archipelago, it's hard to persuade artisanal fishermen to limit what they catch. Such a seeming abundance and diversity of sea life to be eaten or sold to the Chinese belies the problem. A real threat to a whole range of vulnerable species.
Some sharks there.
Oh yes, yeah. That's sad. That's the fin gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they sell the rest of it, but the fin is the valuable part.
That's right. Fin is what goes to make shark fin soup. Very young one. This is the trouble these days. Most of the sharks being brought up are small. It's a sign that the big ones are already gone.
Yeah.
The trade in shark's fins, seahorses and other unappetizing sea creatures is thriving, in spite of the evidence that they're fast disappearing.
Goodness me.
What an extraordinary collection of stuff.
Are those are
These are sea cucumbers,
aren't they?
Which they use in a soup. Literally millions of sea cucumbers are collected from the wild around the world.
They look like sort of
These are
ossified turds, to be honest.
Shark fins. And they're all dried, ready to go. And look, there's seahorses.
Oh, goodness.
Look at that. That's,
perfectly dried.
what they do with these is they put them in a cooking pot and boil them in water for 3 or 4 hours, and then they drink the water. Very, very popular, and millions of seahorses are traded around the world just for that. That's a tonic, but there's several dozen different animal products that are being traded for Chinese medicine. Things like tiger penises, rhino horns, and it's such huge volume.
Yeah.
When you think 1.5 billion people believing in this kind of medicine, demanding the products, you know, one of the key goals for conservation in years to come is to educate people in the Far East not to buy these products. And that, if you can get rid of that demand, then you start to solve the problem on the ground.
And it's not only the sea creatures that are under threat from the demands of Chinese traditional medicine. The pangolin, or scaly anteater, that lives in the forests of Southeast Asia is highly sought after for its reputed health-giving properties. Many are caught, but this one is lucky. It's going to be released by a park ranger into a protected reserve.
So, can we just chat about it a bit? Because I know a little, because funny enough, we did the pangolin on QI. But it's a mammal, isn't it? I mean, people often think, gosh, that must be a reptile, because I think it's the only mammal covered in scales, isn't it?
Or in large scales like that.
These plated scales.
These are made out of keratin, like our fingernails, and like rhino horns, same stuff.
Same material.
People call them sometimes walking pine cones, which I think is a great description.
That's very good. And unfortunately, it's rather delicious flesh, isn't it? I know isn't there an issue with them being stolen from the wild for the plates of Chinese restaurants and other places around the world?
Yes, one of the delicacies, actually.
Yeah,
yes.
And they're expensive and highly rated.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
People drink the blood as well, and they reckon these keratin scales are good for things like blood circulation and swellings, and then they boil them to get the scales off and then eat the meat.
He's taken his whole face out of his...
Isn't that fantastic?
Smelling.
And how endangered is the pangolin?
Well,
vulnerable?
they are one of the protected species.
They are
Yeah,
protected species. Yeah.
Well, we should let him go,
We
I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's-
What are you going to do? Just put him on the ground
Down
and
here.
yeah.
Okay.
Then we'll.
I think he's going to make a dash for it. I wouldn't blame him.
Oh, you are.
Can't believe his luck.
Like that. Okay, just
A whole
try to
new
smell it
home.
here. Yeah, you start to smelling.
Oh, it's going the wrong way now. There he goes.
Oh, you are.
There he goes.
There you are.
They find it hard to walk because of those big claws. Of course, they have to walk with the
going up a
claws.
tree.
Oh, look at
Climbing
that.
up. There you
Wow. That's where the claws come in handy as well. Oops.
Reasonably in handy. That's better.
See that? Ooh.
Got the hang of it now. Wow, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Splendid. Well
Great.
done.
Goodbye, pangolin.
Well, that was a great success.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
The pangolin faces an even greater threat than poaching. Like so many other animals here, it's fast losing its habitat. The main cause? The dramatic increase in palm oil plantations.
Rows and rows and rows of these palm trees.
I know, it's scary, isn't it? It's literally as far as the eye can see, look, over that hill and beyond.
And these are all over Southeast Asia, aren't they?
Yeah, it's one of the big conservation issues in the world, let alone just in Southeast Asia, because what's happening is vast areas of tropical rainforest are being cleared and replaced with palm oil plantations like this. And, you know, we in Europe are partly to blame because we're among the consumers. People
Is
are
it a foodstuff? Oil?
Yeah, the palm oil is used in foodstuffs, food processing, and also in cosmetics. And the latest thing, which is very ironic, is in biofuels, environmentally friendly fuel.
So-called environmentally friendly fuel.
Well, of course, the fuel itself is environmentally friendly, but the production, not only does it destroy the rainforest, which destroys all the wildlife and so on, it also, by destroying the rainforest, releases more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than you save by using the biofuel.
Yes.
So it's a bad thing all round. Most of the wildlife in the forest that would have been here is gone.
Palm oil has caused the destruction of much of Borneo's rainforest. But it's also the mangroves, those amazing trees that spend half their life in the sea, that are equally at risk, along with the species that they nurture. One of the most endangered is also one of the most ridiculous looking, the aptly named proboscis monkey. In Labuk Bay, a small area of 400 acres has been saved from the encroaching palm oil plantation by its owner Ambrose, who is dedicated to preserving the unique wildlife of these tidal swamplands.
What happened, so when we're here, so looking at the monkeys, they're all around here. Now, we feel that it's not fair to destroy their habitat.
No, quite.
Yeah. I mean, after sometimes we're thinking about this, studying all the pros and cons, so in the end we said, look, we have to protect them.
So it's one little island, though, with all around is palm, and this one part, because you have it, it's private land.
Yes,
so you can do what you like with
Oh,
it.
yes, this is all private property.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've
So-
turned it into a sanctuary for
Right.
all, I mean, not just the monkeys, the proboscis and the
Yes, and
silverleaf.
any other thing, because we also want to protect the mangrove.
Yeah.
Knowing well that we need to have the mangrove. And I say from this sanctuary, I think we are the leaders.
Yes.
Yeah, we make the first move.
Right.
You see? So hopefully the rest of all these big players in the plantation will also follow suit.
Seeing them in profile there, you know, the Indonesians used to call them Dutch monkeys because there was a bit of a dig at the old Dutch settlers because of their big pot bellies and, of course, their big red noses. It's hilarious. You can see it, can't you?
You can. Also, there's something about the noise there. Reminds me of the of lunchtime at the Garrick Club.
So, well, they've given him a period. What's he ever done? Nothing. Ridiculous. Oh, I see from my paper that you're dead.
It's rather nice in this world where most tropical fruit is available in your local British supermarket to see things that aren't. And
I
this
know.
is
This is one of
something
my
I have
favourites.
long wanted to try. This is the famous durian fruit, isn't it?
I know, the smelly fruit that lots of airlines have banned because it's so bad.
You're not allowed to have it on Singaporean public transport.
That's right.
And in hotels there are signs with like cigarettes crossed out and durian fruit crossed out, the spiky fruit. But,
Shall we get one? We'll try
I think
one.
so.
Thank you.
Oh, it's like an embryo. It's like
Feels
some hideous-
disgusting too.
Oh, it's so unctuous and
Thank you.
slippery. Terima kasih.
You ready?
Oh, I wish I could describe to you how disgusting that smells. It's hot from Satan's anal ring. It is.
Not quite that bad.
Oh,
but it tastes
do you?
delicious. It tastes delicious. Really sweet and not bad at all.
No, it's not bad. As you say, the texture is not appealing particularly, but
No.
the taste is lovely.
I might have another piece.
Terima kasih.
As there are no direct flights from Borneo to our next destination, the Komodo Islands, we need to do a spot of island hopping. Our first waypoint is the island of Bali. Unlike neighbouring Borneo, Bali destroyed its rainforests centuries ago when the Hindus settled on this small island to escape the advance of Islam. Every available piece of land was harnessed to feed the growing population to the detriment of the forest fauna and flora. The Balinese have remained resolutely Hindu in spite of the overwhelming dominance of Islam amongst Indonesia's 230 million people. The mix of local deities, animism and Hindu mythology has created a dynamic ritual life for the Balinese that is seen everywhere on the island. Though there is great respect for nature, ironically, animal and specifically turtle sacrifices have been a major ingredient in the ceremonies.
You can see everywhere in Bali how important Hinduism is with all their little offerings. Everywhere you walk there are little offerings, aren't there, to different deities and so on. Yeah, it just shows how hard it is to change traditions like sacrificing sea turtles. You know, it's been happening for time immemorial, and to actually make that change involves a lot of effort in
So instead of sacrificing
persuading
turtles,
people.
what do they do?
Well, some places are now using drawings or paintings of
Mock
turtles.
Oh, yes.
Why didn't I see that coming?
Fair. So, yeah, in a
No,
sense...
they're using things like drawings and paintings and rice cakes in the shape of turtles and anything that represents a turtle.
Well, the religion is a lot of religions. Their history is a move from the actual to the symbolic, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
The evening entertainment in the temple grounds is the traditional shadow play, with a plot involving gods, demons and fallible humans, as well as a fleeting glimpse of a Komodo dragon. I wish we could have stayed longer, but our destiny lies to the east, where the real dragons await us. Labuan Bajo is the main port on the island of Flores, and where we'll find our boat to the islands where the dragons live. In the 20 years since Mark and Douglas came here, the 5 islands that make up the main Komodo habitat have become a national park and a popular destination for the intrepid traveller.
It's a rather nice town, this, isn't it? Has it changed much since you were here with Douglas?
Oh, God, yeah. It's so different. Can't believe it's the same place.
But the islands are marvellous to see, aren't they? They've got that Southeast Asian sort of humpiness that's just very characteristic. They're very different from islands anywhere in the world.
That one there is just fantastic.
Mark, man killed by Komodo dragons. I'm not making it up. Look.
Oh, my goodness.
2 Komodo dragons mauled a fruit picker to death in eastern Indonesia, police and witnesses said yesterday. The latest in a string of attacks on humans by the world's largest lizard species.
That's not good. Well, they are incredibly dangerous animals. I think the most scary thing about them is they have this amazing saliva. The saliva is dripping from their mouths. They have so much of it. It's like a witch's brew of bacteria. And what they do is they don't like tackling the big animals and actually bringing them down. So they'll lie in ambush and they'll leap out and bite a water buffalo or a deer or a horse or some huge prey animal, and then just wait for it to gradually lose strength and get weaker and weaker or die, and then it'll go, and maybe a week later we'll go in for the kill.
That's about the creepiest way for an animal to earn a living that I've ever heard of. That's revolting. That's lower than a dung beetle. It's lower than an estate agent or a banker. Creepy as that.
We hear that one of the Komodo Park rangers, a man called Pak Mine, was attacked last month while sitting at his desk in the ranger's office on the island of Rincha. He's still recuperating at home.
Mine, you had a fight with a Komodo dragon. What happened?
The dragon near with my foot, the left, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
After bite here, still in my foot, his mouth, so I have to step and then take the right of my foot, put in the body.
Yes,
in the back,
to stamp on him, yes.
I would like to make a break of the neck of the dragon,
yes.
But he more strong.
Yeah.
More strong, and
Even
then
the young one.
I cannot strong for hold him. So the dragons throw down on the floor and strike bite on the hand.
Oh my
right
goodness.
And you have many more scars
Yes.
here, and your
Stitching
hand
in.
all swollen.
And then hand, the right one, I make like this. And calling my friend.
Right, so you're
Help
shouting
me.
with blood coming out of you.
Help me, help me.
Well, this is a warning to us to be careful.
Yes. Yep, this is what we've come here for.
The wind is fair and all is shipshape aboard the good ship Felicia as we set sail for our encounter with the decidedly deadly dragons. Our first stop will be at Rincha, the second largest of the islands within the Komodo National Park, which in 1991 was designated a World Heritage Site. The result is that not only are the dragons protected, but so crucially are the animals they feed on.
Seem to be approaching land.
Yeah. So this is Rincha.
Rincha. Seems quite a bare sort of landscape, rather Welsh or Scottish almost, not many trees and scrubby grass and rocky outcrops. What sort of animals and things does the Komodo dragon live on?
Well, here they're living on animals that have been introduced by people, actually. The big things like water buffalo, horses, pigs, deer, really big things.
For the past 6 years, zoologist Pak Denny has been studying the dragons, monitoring their movements and examining their mating and hunting habits. The most recent research indicates that the dragons are in fact highly venomous, so it now seems it's not just the toxic brew of bacteria in their saliva, but also the anticoagulants in their venom which disable their prey. So this makes them the largest venomous animal in the world, and I'm about to meet them. Great.
Oh my goodness.
Look at this.
It's not, is it? They're huge.
That's a really big one, isn't it?
Oh my goodness me.
How big
thought
would
they
you
were
say
lots.
that is?
This one probably 80 kilograms.
Are they aggressive to you?
They keep an eye on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to be careful.
Yeah.
But this is where you live. The rangers live here.
Yeah.
And this is the office where, we were talking to
Mine yesterday.
Mine yesterday.
Mine
That's where he was attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's still blood remaining.
There's
on
blood, oh
on
dear.
The windows.
And they can climb up these steps.
Of course. That's why we have to be careful.
God, I thought I was ugly. They really are not the most attractive animals. There's nothing about them that endears us as mammals to them, but I dare say they love each other in their own way.
They're so well armed. You've got those amazing claws, like I say, like tiger's talons, a really powerful tail. They can knock an animal as big as a horse and a water buffalo over with, and the shark-like teeth.
He's nuzzling. We could get some gay action going on. How long have you studied and worked with Komodo dragons?
Since 2002.
This is a strange question. Do you like them?
First time, I have to be honest, it's a dangerous species,
Yeah.
and then I have to be careful, and then I was a little bit worried. But after 1 year, 2 years, I try to love my job.
Yeah.
Do you? Do you now?
Yeah,
You do.
You do.
This is the only dragons that live in Indonesia, which is my country.
Yes. So
And then
you're
I'm proud of it,
Yes.
and then it's kind of my pride.
Yes.
You see all the folds of skin, is what fascinates me. That's partly so they can expand when they eat. Because they eat huge amounts, don't they? In one sitting, they can eat almost sort of 80% of their own weight in one sitting. And they get really big, obviously. So all those extra bits of skin will stretch out like a big bag.
Do they use the tongue to smell?
Yeah, it's incredibly clever system because it's the forked tongue, and they can tell which direction the smell is
So it's
coming
like stereo.
from. It is smell in stereo.
Left channel, right channel. How brilliant.
And it's so powerful, they reckon, I mean, I don't know what the latest theory is, but it's many kilometres away. They
More
can smell
more
the food.
than 4 kilometers.
They are as ugly as sin, but like all animals, I suppose they're very good at being themselves. You've got to respect that sort of... the Komodo dragonness of them is so complete, isn't it?
When their tongues come out, you can see where the Chinese dragon myth came from, because the tongue is like the fire coming out. And of course, a couple of thousand years ago, there were Chinese traders stopping off here, and that's where the "Here be dragons" were written on the maps. You know, warning people of this area, there are these animals here.
There's one there looking straight at me, and I have to say it is one of the most malevolent expressions I've ever seen on any living thing. The dragons live cheek by jowl with the rangers, but they also wander throughout the various villages or kampongs on the islands, whose inhabitants now number some 4,000. Be interesting to know what the villagers think of living, as it were, in the shadow of the dragon.
Wouldn't it? Yeah, we need to try and find the headman or mayor, or I don't know what you'd call the person in charge of the village here, but it'd be interesting to chat.
The kampung commandant.
Do you think?
Yeah. A local legend recounts how once upon a time the Komodo was a human's twin, which may explain something of their mutual tolerance.
Goodness me, lovely, aren't they?
Aren't they? Yeah.
But last year, on the largest kampong on Komodo, a child was eaten by a dragon. So we want to find out how the villagers' attitude to these dangerous predators has changed. Could you ask him if the villagers are always aware, always conscious of the fact that they have these dangerous dragons close to them?
Pak Haji, dia bertanya katanya apakah orang
dengan terakhir sekarang dengan ada kejadian
before the kids died, it just live in harmony. But right after the kids die, 1 year ago, the people here a little bit careful. They teach the little ones not enter the forest again.
And do they like the fact that tourists come to see the dragon? Is that a good thing? Are they welcomed here?
Kalau ini senang dengan adanya turis-turis datang ke sini atau gimana?
Bahkan lebih senang.
Oh, it's happy. They happy about the tourists. They get incomes from the tourists.
Yeah, very good. I detect a certain insouciance towards the dragons, but maybe it's because there's simply no alternative. And maybe to them, killing the dragon would be tantamount to fratricide. We leave the village to sail to the far side of Rincha, where Denny has a research project to continue.
As we pass the mangrove forests that adorn the islands like emerald necklaces, Mark is keen to show me how crucial they are to the health of the entire archipelago.
Isn't that incredible?
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
I mean, it sounds a silly thing to say, but this is trees growing in the sea.
I always think of them as botanical amphibians.
Yeah.
You know, they sort of got 1 foot on the land and 1 foot in the sea. It's the most extraordinary habitat.
Aside from anything else, it's just so beautiful, these kind of wonderful bushy margins to the islands.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
They're marvellous and they're multifunctional. Are they in any way endangered?
Of course, as most things are. No, they are. There's coastal development of all sorts, from golf courses to hotels. They're destroying mangroves and reclaiming the land.
Right.
Shrimp farming is one of the main threats.
Yes.
And of course the other problem is once you've destroyed a habitat, all the other wildlife goes, and you know, we've just seen not just the fish, there are barnacles and oysters and crabs, and there are snakes living in here, and there's all sorts of birds, so they go as well. I forgot to mention.
Thanks for telling me.
As the fruit bats leave these floating forests, I marvel at the extraordinary and complex evolutionary forces that have made these island habitats so utterly bewitching. Next morning, the Rincha dragons are blithely unaware of Denny and the rangers' plan. The idea is to trap some of the dragons and tag them with a radio collar so their movements can be tracked over the islands. By doing this, they will have for the first time an accurate census which will be vital in monitoring their survival. But snagging a drooling venomous lizard is no easy matter. Or is it?
So have we got one?
We got one. It's pretty big.
Wow, that's a big trap.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, gosh, it's a big one. Good grief. So what's the plan then? What do we do?
We will try to measure them. We will tie them up and then take them out.
So you kind of hog tie them and then attach some device?
Yeah.
A GPS device?
Radio telemetry. Yeah.
Right, radio telemetry.
Let's
try.
Okay, we can try. Sebentar. Sip.
Feel it, can't you? Trying to move the tail.
It's being hog-tied, or it's like a chicken when you...
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
Just keeping up.
Have they not?
No, it's a bit like crocodile.
And some measurements we're getting now. We've got a micrometer.
14.5.
Head width, 14.5
centimeter.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Just follow the
line of the
line.
tail.
Yeah,
Mark it.
In that line.
Yeah. 2 2/3 meters. Wow. What's the next stage?
The next stage is attach the transmitter.
Right.
We'll see it's probably fit enough to the hips. Harus pasang kita.
Oh yes.
That's working.
So this is fine tune.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Keep the leg like this.
Yes.
Even it's already released.
Yep. It's a tough animal.
And then we release them in the 3 count like that.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, and then everybody just go.
Right. Okay. Ready.
Yeah.
Got that out. Wait a second. Just still got rope on the.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Just undoing the tape around the nozzle on the snout. That's it. Got it. Unwind.
Okay, I count. 1, 2, 3.
Kenapa tidak dilepas?
Tidak apa-apa.
Oh, that wasn't so
So
bad.
we can start to track them.
Yeah. You don't really need the radio identification when you can see it, but nonetheless.
No, we're checking it's working.
Yeah, I know. I'm kidding.
All good?
Good.
Yeah? Great. Well, he looks none the worse for wear, does he?
No, he's still interested in staying around here. I thought he'd want to vamoose.
The thing is, they look so lethargic like this, and you do have to remember they can whip around in a split second. Wow.
Oh, my goodness. We're sort of surrounded, aren't we?
Yeah, there's that one we've just released. 1, 2.
Yes.
Another one there.
Go on.
All together.
This might be an appropriate moment to adjourn our little dragon meeting. What do you think?
I
Shall
suppose
we,
we should.
Another way of putting it is, shall we get the arse out of here?
We sneak off the island to the safety of our boat and leave Denny and the rangers to continue their work. Denny estimates that the dragon population has remained pretty level over the past 20 years, but worryingly, some estimates suggest there may be very few breeding females. However, the Komodos have a little trick up their tail.
What's interesting is if this was a female and she was out at sea and got washed by currents or riptides or something and landed on another island, she could actually develop eggs and then give birth to young Komodo dragons without a male being anywhere near. They don't have to have the eggs fertilised. It's called parthenogenesis.
Virgin birth in Greek.
Birth. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they could, in theory, colonise another island with just one female.
Right.
For the foreseeable future, the Komodos shouldn't need to use their virgin birthing. The creation of the national park has certainly protected them and their habitat, and in the process, all the other species. Especially those denizens that straddle the sea and land, they have also been helped. Barring some catastrophe, be it fire, flood or plague, with vigilant monitoring, the dragons should survive for years to come in their own small corner of this beautiful archipelago. Never let it be said that I'm less than willing to seek out endangered species. But when Mark said that he wanted me to travel with him to the other side of the world in search of a fat, flightless parrot, I knew I was with a man pursuing a very personal and peculiar passion.